Hi, I'm Chris Kalaba, and I'm playing the role of Mr. M.
Thank you. And Tevin.
Hi there, I'm Tevin Musara and I play Tommy Migwana.
And lovely, beautiful Laurie.
Very kind, but hi everyone, I'm Laurie Todis and I play Isabelle Dyson.
Now, we should start this discussion because we're talking about the play and performance here, essentially. And what I'm interested in, and I'm sure that our viewers will be interested in, is how each of you visualizes the characters you're playing. So, Chris, could we start with you? Tell us how you see Mr. M.
Well, the way I see Mr. M is a very matured man and a teacher. And the way I've actually thought about it is that Mr. M is actually a teacher, a politician, and a parent, even though he doesn't have children, because nothing is mentioned about him having children, but he is a parent.
He's very much a single man, isn't he? He's a bachelor.
He's an amazing man, Roy. Okay, let me start by going through him as a teacher and the way I've read it, and with some extracts that I've taken from the play itself. I've actually written down quite a lot because I know when I actually do the talking, I just talk all the way. So it's better that I read the stuff that I've written and it makes more sense. To me, Mr. M is a teacher, not just a teacher, even though he is the school principal. He is passionate about teaching. He is a dedicated teacher. To Mr. M, teaching is a calling, not a profession, even though he is a teacher by profession. It is his life. He eats, drinks, sleeps, and dreams teaching. Listen to him when he says to Isabelle in Act 1, Scene 3, page 59, quote, "Any teacher who takes his calling seriously dreams about that one special people, that one eager and gifted young head into which he can pour all that he knows and loves, and who will justify all the years of frustration in the classroom." Unquote. That is how dedicated he is to his calling. He even goes on around the, he even goes around the school with the school bell. In every classroom that he teaches, he takes the school bell with him. That is how serious he is, and to make sure that the school starts on time and every subject starts on time. He doesn't dare someone else to ring the school bell as it is done in other schools. No, he does it himself. You see, he is the school, he is the school principal after all, and you can do that, but he rings it himself to make sure that there is order in his school. He leads by example. You don't find a lot of principals like that. We even learn more that Mr. M loves his learners. He calls them his family. In Act 1, Scene 3, page 55, he says to Isabelle, "The unruly behavior of my young family wasn't too much for you." Unquote. You must remember that nothing in the plays says Mr. M has children, like I mentioned earlier on. But a bachelor who always talks about his children, his family. They are not someone else's children, but his young family. And he even welcomes Isabelle into the family. In Act 1, Scene 3, page 54, quote, "Hearing you calling me Mr. M like all the others at my school gives me the happy feeling that you are also a member of my very extended family."
Yeah.
You see, we even learn more about his passion for teaching just before we reach the climax of the play when he says to Tommy in Act 2, Scene 3, page 94, quote, "You know, Tommy, I'd sell my soul to have you all back behind your desk for one last lesson. Yes, if the devil thought it was worth having and offered me that in exchange, one lesson, you could have my soul. So then, it's all over. Because this, meaning the classroom, is all there was to me. This was my home. my life, my one and only ambition to be a good teacher.
Thank you. Chris, he's also a very orderly man, isn't he? He's very neat. It's interesting, Fugard starts the play with that order, please. And Mr. M is very orderly. The way he describes his room in the Reverend Bopo's house, it's all very, very orderly and organized.
That's true. Everything, according to him, is in order and it's very neat.
Yes.
Yes. That's one thing about him. And he doesn't want any disorganization.
No, and that's what really, really rocks him when the whole bloody Bruckvater falls apart. That really, you know, that disorder is hugely frightening to him. Thank you so much, Chris. Tevin, tell us about Tommy.
Hi. So obviously you guys know I play Tommy Mbekwana in the play. And Tommy is a very particular and intelligent young man, but he has a big heart, as well as brooding unhappiness throughout the entire play. So I wrote a little something about each and every topic that I'm going to talk about. So I'll start with brooding unhappiness. So Tommy's generation is used to seeing the humiliation of their fathers and mothers. And he says this in the play, discussing how they always go back to their miserable conducts after working for the boss or the madame. And it's quite clear that Tommy is a victim of intergenerational trauma. To quote Dr. Kerber-Ross, grief, if not dealt with, turns into anger. Seeing the deaths of his people, the deaths of his ancestors' hopes and dreams, it boils up in this pot and it begins, you can see it, you can see this boiling frustration throughout the entire play. To embody that on stage is to show that those growing stages of the boiling. Playing that happiness at the beginning of the play when he starts doing the quiz with Liberty and Mr. M. I mean, Isabelle and Mr. M. And then as it goes on, you start seeing through those cracks the unhappiness oozing out of him. And that's the intergenerational trauma starting to slip out. And he's a young man. It's very hard for someone to deal with all of these emotions coming to him. And I guess that's why he chooses that cause, is because he needs some guidance. And Mr. M is trying to give him that guidance, but he's also trying to find his own way as a young man. He's so used to seeing his parents and the people who came before him suffering for so long that he feels like another way has to be taken in order to resolve these situations. And so that's why he chooses that path. And throughout the play, you start seeing this boiling frustration. And it gets to a point where he does the unthinkable to him. He actually goes against someone that he loves so dearly and someone he looks up to. And that right there is Mr. M. And then we see that Tommy is extremely intelligent. It's the little things that indicate that this boy knows exactly what he's saying and doing. And how, too, without saying it, he knows he's intelligent. On stage, it's all about playing the nuances. The slight smirk, being playful, having fun with the literature answers and allowing them to flow out of the tongue. The stage directions and the way the play has been written makes it so easy to understand the atmosphere and gravity of every scene and every word. The playfulness I mentioned showcases his confidence. People would be sweating trying to answer some of these literature questions, but Tommy has it down to a T. And you can see this relationship that he has with Mr. M, because Mr. M is so proud of how intelligent this young man is. And he can see such a bright, bright future for him. However, the choices that he makes in the play are something that lets Mr. M down. And obviously you see that clash. And then we go on to a big heart. Tommy is fighting for himself and fighting for his people. But we see throughout the play that Tommy would go to the extent of almost betraying his comrades and going to Mr. M and telling Mr. M, please leave the classroom right now to avoid your inevitable death. even though they have their differences, Tommy still cares about Mr. M's well-being. It's in this scene, we see that Tommy gives Mr. M an emotional plea to leave the classroom. And once Mr. M dies, he speaks to Isabelle about Mr. M's death. And you can see how much Mr. M meant to him when he ends up crying. This emotional buildup throughout the play allows me to fit in the pocket of those emotions needed for the scene. If done correctly and staying true to the actual text itself, these emotions come so easily.
Thank you so much. Of course, Tevin, I'm sure you'll agree that Mr. M's very proud as well, not only of him being an intelligent young man,
Yes.
but of what Mr. M has poured into him over the years.
Yes.
That's important, I think.
Yes.
Laurie.
Hello.
Yes, the fish out of water.
Wow, it was just such a just to go back in time with this beautiful story. So Isabelle has a bright mind, a passionate drive, and a good heart. She has an infectious energy, a lot of charisma, and I think that essentially is what lured, motivated Tommy to stay after the debate and just engage with her. She has a very competitive nature to her, and it builds this fight for her to stay in the game and take the literary quiz and take it to the next level to win. She stands out from her peers in school because she doesn't think like just that all the white privileged students do. She often refers to how she feels like an outsider, and in her own family, she means well, and she does tend to ask ill-informed questions.
Yeah.
Yes, and she's very naive, and she herself goes through a journey of entering this new world. Her bubble has popped like she never thought possible, and she serves as she does serve give us a sign of hope, but she I am sorry, if I may just pause for one moment.
Okay.
Yes, I am sorry,
Relax,
yes,
Laurie. Relax.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I COVID, and I just sorry.
Just relax, darling.
No, yes, sorry.
Relax, yeah.
Hello. But
Chris, tell me,
yes.
sorry, Chris, tell me, were you ever part of the 1976 or the 1985 protests?
Yeah, well, during the 1985 because I mean I was already out of high school, but there's something that most people don't know or don't realize is that there was actually a boycott even in 1980. There was a national school boycott in 1980.
Oh.
And I remember very clearly when it comes to that one, because mainly the reason why we actually decided to go on boycott was it had nothing to do with the language. It was different to 1976, totally different. It had to do with the fact that we had the laboratories, but they were empty. They had no apparatuses. They were, I mean, like, how could you learn science from an empty laboratory?
Yeah.
There's just nothing you can do. And that was one of the reasons. And we had no libraries. We had buildings, but there were no books, nothing inside. And I remember this very clearly. I think I was doing Standard 7 in 1979. We had this teacher who was coming all the way from Transkei, the then Transkei. He came to teach us Afrikaans, but he never learned Afrikaans in Transkei because they were not learning Afrikaans in Transkei. And then, how do you expect someone to teach you Afrikaans when he actually doesn't understand it?
Sure.
You know, we also encountered those problems because we actually understood Afrikaans better than the guy who was actually coming to teach us.
Yeah.
I remember some.
Tev, you're a Zimbabwean. You're a Zimbabwean. Does any of this mean anything to you as a Zimbabwean, the actual political events?
Yes, I've actually been waiting for this question. Thank you for asking me this question. I delved into a lot of questions with my parents, and I spoke to them about how their experience has been in South Africa. And also at the same time, I was born in South Africa, but my parents were born in Zimbabwe and they moved to South Africa before I was born. So, however, the text definitely resonates with me, and here's why. Obviously, I said I was born in South Africa, and before I was born in South Africa, my parents lived here for a number of years. The experience, their experience in apartheid was closer to the end of apartheid. However, my dad was appointed as a head manager of SPAR, and he had a situation that he faced around the community that he was living in, because during this time, people were allowed to move into white neighborhoods. However, it wasn't a friendly situation for him because he had situations where the white community around would chain up his gates to his house and lock it up and send death threats. So it was a very hectic time, and my older brother had to move back to Zimbabwe to live with my grandmother because it was such a hostile environment to live in. And so much happened, and there were attacks that happened, and my mother was also attacked, and she had to literally choose death or jump out of a window from a very, very high floor. And she jumped and she broke her 2 legs. So, you know, the hostility of apartheid isn't something that's far-fetched to my family. Even though it was closer to the end of apartheid, it still had a massive impact. And so talking about that intergenerational trauma that Tommy has is something that I also have hints of. But obviously I was born free, you know, and born in a better political climate. Obviously there are things that still can be done, but I think I definitely do resonate with the text, and I find a lot of myself in Tommy Mbikwana.
Good.
Yes.
Laurie, how are you feeling?
Yes, I apologize, everybody.
Not at all, you haven't been
I
well.
got tested, but if I may please give my beautiful Isabelle another shot, another justice. I felt a bit, you know, tight-chested here, but I am back, and I would love
only got
to
5 minutes
just
left.
yes. All right. Well, in very speedy
Good.
pace. So her bright mind is full of smart wit and charisma, and her charisma and smart wit make her the person she is. And she is full of sensitivity and compassion. But why these characters stood out for me the most is that because her dedication, commitment, and strong feelings trigger her motivation to sort of put Tommy on the stand and just keep asking him questions, because she essentially needs to know all the facts, everything that is going on. And the fact that she can't comprehend or understand Tommy's experience, you know, sort of gives her this overwhelming feeling. And the fact is that this is the first time she's ever understood what it feels like to not be in the know of something. But part of her good nature and her care is her genuine care to really try and bring Mr. M and Tommy together.
Yes.
And that is one of her most pure and authentic intentions. Very endearing. And this question may come up a bit later, but I do feel that she does have a neoliberal understanding of Tommy's experience.
Yes,
but I don't know, Roy, if you want to get to that later,
no,
or if I.
No, we
yes.
don't have. We. I think you've all done very well. I want to thank each of you for it's so marvelous to hear the people who are embodying these characters speak so spontaneously and insightfully about these three fascinating characters. Thank you all very much.